Truth be told, I didn't think we'd make it here. After that first map, I thought, okay, Envy's surely going to take the series, given that we're moving on over to Split, but Cloud9 really impressed us on that map. So now we force ourselves to that third map. It's going to be Bind, and it's going to get interesting. This is the Valorant First Strike Open Qualifier, presented by Nerd Street Gamers. My name is Bach. On the broadcast with me is Vance Silly. We've made it to map number 3 somehow, despite the fact that stats would have indicated it wasn't going to happen. Largely in part due to the way that Cloud9 just played on that last map, and they kept Mummy and Caboose neutralized throughout most of that first half. I think Caboose got his first kill like 9 rounds into that first half. And you can take a look at the scores here. The stats kind of speak for themselves. A very rough game for Envy, who started to come alive in that second half, but it was just too little too late.
But see, still despite that, Mummy that was like 0-8 before he got a frag or whatnot, he's still at 114 average damage in the end. So they definitely stepped that up on the defender side, and still being able to take 6 or 7 rounds in the end. It's still really good here for the momentum of Envy moving into this third map. Because if they actually got completely shut out where Mummy and Caboose couldn't get any kills, they're walking into this third map basically with their head down and the morale is kind of shot. And when you're looking at Bind, you kind of want that for Cloud9 to just dismantle them as fast as possible, because Bind has been the map pick for Envy pretty much this whole tournament. They're currently 5-0 playing Bind in the First Strike Open Qualifier, being the likes of like Complexity and T1. Whereas for Cloud9, they've basically banned that map every single time that they had to play against a team, with the exception of TSM, where again, because TSM had the higher seed, they banned Haven so they could put Bind into that map rotation so they could try to play that against Cloud9. Mind you, it went to overtime, and with the coin flip that was won, and this time won by Cloud9, you could still think that they have chances to win this one with how TenZ has been playing on the defender side for that team as well on Split.
Yeah.
So it's going to be an interesting one for the third one here, Bach.
Hey, I mean, here's the crazy thing, right? If you actually look back at those stats, it only showed 4 spike plants. That's how that game played out on Split. Like, it was just a brawl. They were just fighting each other through and through. It wasn't really like oh, they've gotten site control, back off, retake. It was more just like 2 people just running at each other over and over and over again. And it was mostly Cloud9 coming out on top of those exchanges because it was a cold start from their top performers for Envy.
Yes.
And yeah, sure, they rounded out their stats much better, but when you look at the stat line for TenZ, you can kind of see why they were having a hard time getting into the game. But we are ready to jump into our third and final map to see who will be walking into next week's closed qualifiers with that coveted #1 seed. 2 teams that many didn't expect to make it to this point, Cloud9 and Envy. Of all teams, they're the ones fighting for it. Sentinels, Gen G, TSM, 100 Thieves, all the big brands you've seen over the last several months, not present at this point in the bracket. The highest we saw one of those teams finish was 3rd place as we watched that match earlier tonight. And we're going to see the composition come through. Shinobi on the Omen, Vice on the Sova, Mitch with the Killjoy still, TenZ on the Reyna, and then Relics as the Raze, Mummy, Omen, Crashies on the Sova, and we'll get the rest as well as we kick off this pistol round and see how things are going to get going. Relics decides to fly in. It's awkward to say the least as he runs into everyone and can't quite make it work. The aggressive play being punished currently by Envy as Cloud9 wanted to take the battle to their doorstep, and Envy was waiting for it.
Yeah, maybe they forgot the fact that even if teammates are getting, or their opponents are getting paranoid, they might still have a line of fire where they're just spraying pistols, and you got caught into that for Relics at that point. It was a perfect paranoia, but I think at that point you try to look back towards the right side, but I know the idea. You blind the ones on the right, you try to kill the ones on the left if they're trying to pinch in on that short A side. But as they try to read into that strat, it worked out, but they just couldn't land the shots, unfortunately, so they lose 2 players early. And now Cloud9 are forced to stack somewhere, and they're stacking in the right spot, actually. They have 3 players inside this B side, and the full roster of Envy are currently getting ready to walk into this site.
Envy now moving back towards B. This is the best case scenario right now for Cloud9. You've got the stack here, but they needed Shinobi to step up. Mitch is at least able to get one spamming through and somehow is still alive, but the hot hands lands and he starts to just immolate. And it doesn't work out so well for him in the end. So Envy pick up same amount of rounds on Bind as they did in the first half on Split. Already a better start here than the last map. And we'll see if they can keep things going. Only one kill in that pistol round, and it was Mitch with the Frenzy and a frantic spray through both a dark cover and a cyber cage with no information whatsoever, just sort of a chance kill coming out.
And that's one of the things you have to look out for when we talk about utility usage from the Envy, or just in general. Envy likes to do like the cyber cages and hot hands within that. So as they're trying to run through, or they're like, oh, I'm stuck in it, I don't want to do any audible cues to try to run out to give away my position, hot hands comes down onto your feet when you start running, as we saw just Mitch before he got picked off here at that B side. But this round, Caboose pushing forward, already taking new control, but Relix is close range, gets the buckshot in the face of Caboose, and everybody's teleporting back towards his B side.
A nice way to kick things off here for the attacking side, though. They're going to manage to scoop up control of that B site. They'll go ahead and secure the spike as well. The pistol of 10s eventually finds the kill. The heal will help, but it won't take them up to full, sitting below 50 HP as they group up now and come through into Hookah. They've actually managed to make this work. They've brought it down now to 2, and the Sova gets dropped down to just around 5 HP. Mummy's on site with a full boat, but he's got to be careful as the drone comes through. Look at the damage that's being dealt. Mummy somehow still alive. Has to go to the sidearm as he's down out of ammo. And there it is. CLOUD9 make it work. It starts with the shotgun, putting a nice little hole in the chest of that first attacker, and then they manage to revert and go for the retake over on the B site. And despite the firepower advantage that Envy had, CLOUD9 just makes it work.
Well, they forgot that there's 10s. Yes, 10s only gets 1 kill, but that's 1 important kill in there. That's a ding from a Sheriff for 145 damage, a second one to get the kill when you had a person posted up to look towards the defender spawn flank, up on that awning, on that cubby at the entrance of that B side. But the way that you saw that drone that came through, when we were trying to hide in the back of the site, you really needed your teammate to try to break that open. And as soon as it was shot at, but it wasn't broken, the position was given away, where he kind of scrambled on that 2 versus 1 and could eventually got the 2 kills. But now that you wasted so many bullets, you couldn't try to play like any type of flank play in the end of that 1 versus 2. So CLOUD9 did a great job here to even things up on a 3-3 round, rather. A full save coming in for Envy as they lose 1 player early, trying to take control of Showers.
Here.
That's what makes 10s playing the Reyna so interesting. So for a long time, we've praised Jett as being one of the strongest initiators because of the escapability. Well, 10s just illustrates that same trait with a character that also has a flash and a self-heal, as 10s escapes with the dismiss like he's done many times in the past. As they try to make their way onto the A site after losing that initial battle, they get nothing. And CLOUD9 comes away with a flawless round victory that allows them to pad out both the stats and the bank accounts. 2,600 for Relix. He's the lowest on the totem pole when it comes to credit accumulation. Envy, they're going to spend up here. But again, no ops in play. Vice is on an SMG, as is Shinobi. So they're approaching this one as a bonus round, which is fine as they're going to have so much money to fall back on. Hopefully they can get something going. Vice gonna go aggressive off the bat with a recon dart. The same fired back at them, giving away their positions.
Yeah, Mitch was the one that was spotted, so you have a couple of paint shells that are being thrown to Paranoia. So they're going to try to rush into this right now. Taking control at least of this orb. It's still halfway before the showstopper is ready here for food, but it just want to take advantage of the now they try to take control of the B side. How does that still blow up in front of your face? Mitch is down to 61, but they're still converging in, but they're still holding their ground. Mitch now under heavy attack is forced to put down his ultimate lockdown, but they're all dropping like flies for Envy on this rotation, and just like that, CLOUD9, they held everything.
CLOUD9 looking solid. Yeah, I mean, they just put their foot down and said no, and Envy couldn't do much to get past it. Yet again, it's a slow start for 2 of the players of Envy. This time, though, it's Food and Crashies. Last time it was Caboose and Mummy on Split. Food and Crashies, not yet on the scoreboard, but there's still time. They won the pistol, lost to a Eco in the round that follows. And they've been losing rounds since then, but it's back down to pistols for the time being for Envy. Again, you see TenZ locking down Showers. Has his ult available. Empress, that increased fire rate. Very scary when encountering a player with aim the likes of TenZ. Envy just grouping up currently. And they're sitting back for what appears to be a short A push. And they're going to be wandering into a lot of players currently waiting for them. Now, Relics was up on top of the truck. They've got the Paranoia prepared. It comes through. And yeah, the initial few just completely obliterated. Now, Mummy does actually manage to spot Shinobi and take him down. TenZ is here, and he's still shooting him away. As the spike drops in an effort to try to get through the portal, they fall just outside of it. And again, 4 players survive for Cloud9, and you can see what that's doing to the money. 9,000, 7,000, 7,800, 7,600, and 7,100 for Shinobi. There is serious stockpiles of cheddar built up for Cloud9.
Yeah, so there's 2 things that right now Envy has to try to do. The first one is how do you try to take control of you, knowing that Shinobi plays there with the counter Paranoia, where the crossfire is set up with 2 of the top drivers being TenZ and Relics. A side pretty much on lockdown. But the second time, this is something that Envy does a lot too, is trying to take control of Octagon, trying to take control of Long B early into the round. And they're still doing it this round here. The thing is though, Cloud9 is contesting it back with their own recon darts when they can, and also just playing it really great and passively inside of the site, where after you use all those utilities here for Envy to try to clear out the Octagon side, there's nothing left really when you try to move into the site. So you got to readapt that a little bit here, and even into this round, as they're being read here by Cloud9, okay, they're trying to work out towards this Long B again. Everybody is rotated from Cloud9 as well. There's only Shinobi playing towards this Lamps again, but he could TP quite easily to pinch back later on. When the execution
joke's over! You're dead! It begins!
Well, there's the run it back being used as an opener. Caboose is going to charge in first. The flash was on the money, but for some reason pulls out the knife to jump around the corner. Bit of an interesting decision. Showstopper, and it's perfect right on the money as Caboose gobbles up the rocket. It's down to now just 1 for Envy. It's Crashies, who's taking the portal and hoping to get a spike plant out of this scenario. Now, Crashies does have his ult available, so
30
there
seconds
is
left.
a chance that he could use that ult to try and prevent the spike from being defused, but he's going to have to do some serious legwork to get it to that point even. There's a perfect Leer coming out. That's going to make things so much harder. Sure, he finds the kill, but look at the cost. 25 HP remains. Gets distracted by the leaping target, and Relics will round the bend and close out another round here for Cloud9. That's 5 on the board compared to just 1 for Envy.
So the salvation at least is that even though TenZ popped off his Empress, he's still dead, so he wasn't able to accumulate more points from more kills going on from that. So it's going to be a little bit longer for that star player of Cloud9 to charge up the next Empress going through. But again, they're trying to go into this B side where that single mistake was the biggest mistake there for that execution for Caboose. Having to switch out to his knife, that fully cancels things out where they don't gain any type of grounds into the B execution after that. You looked at the X's across the board on that minimap, you had them die at elbow and still die at the Octagon. Nobody was, once again, able to press into this B side, let alone hear the first numbers being punched in onto the spike to be provided into the B side. So again, I think Envy at that point, if they want to try one more time, they do have an honest fury to work with to try to clear out that elbow, but they're going for at least this econ to start things off, this eco towards this A side. They force somewhat, they force no rotation actually, but they force a 4 versus 4 from that trade. But like I said, into the next gun round, I'd like to see the Hunter's Fury to try to clear out elbow if they're still trying to continue to work towards this long B for Envy.
Using that camera to get some intel. Look at the amount of utility out on the site from the Killjoy. The Nano Swarm does some damage as Mitch just starts spraying them down. Not able to finish off that 3rd target, but does do pretty heavy damage. Food's gonna send a food bot around the corner. And yikes, that shock dart makes it a little bit easier for Vice. It's down to just Crashies, and it's another round for Cloud9. Echoes of that second map, excuse me, the first half from Split, as Cloud9's defense looks so incredibly good. But a big part of that too is that Envy just cannot get their money in order. You know, they aren't really finding much success. They've only had 2 spike plants in the last 6 rounds. And one of those was like a 1v4 panic port over to the A site from B. It feels like, for the most part, Envy just can't get anything going at all.
And you saw them hesitating a little bit to what Mame should buy into that round. Should they go for the offensive operator? Should they go for a rifle? They're going to opt to go for full ARs instead. While they're trying to clear out a little bit here towards this mid-side short A, all 5 players are stacked up there. So they're going to play off the back here of the Recon Owl, and then the Paranoia, I will like not give any information because that's the first one. Shinobi cover things up.
That ult doesn't go off. We saw that a couple times, a couple of canceled ults for the Rays in the past. Vice from distance actually gonna land 2 pulses of the Hunter's Fury. That takes this from being an advantageous position for Envy to now being an even 2-on-2. Now Mummy's in heaven, and Crashies is able to sneak over towards that default position. We don't see the spike planted there all that often. I like the blast pack utilization that allows them to get into that spot. And the nade is actually good enough. And now Mummy, what is he going to be able to do here? Has to spam through the box. Actually does connect. So now it's down to the one-on-one. They didn't get the spike to halfway. Fake port coming out. I like the move from Mummy. And he's just going to start spamming through, but Vice reads it well, and Mummy runs out of ammo. So 29 HP, or 28 HP, excuse me, all that's left there in the end for Vice, who's just having a little bit of fun with it at this point. 7-1, Cloud9 barely survived the round, but it's a round win nonetheless.
And that, the idea of the Shadow Step was perfect there for Mame, but at the same time, Vice was already in a position at triple that even if the Shadow Step came down, he knows that it would be so close to him that he could get off it at the same time too. So he read that fake and he could just kind of stick it. And while the spray was happening first, it was just a random spray. It wasn't actually even tapped yet on that spike. So we were guessing for that shot for Mame, which allowed Vice to just go for that wide swing and go for that kill right after. But now let's see if they have that money. If the money is right now for Envy, as they did get the spike plant, they do have the rifles across the board. Small shield, but again, now finally you have Crashes moving forward. And this is not common. Cloud9 throughout this whole half has always had Mitch and the Silva also playing towards that elbow. So just ult into there and try to get into the site.
Well, it's going to be a clash on the B site as utility gets expended from both teams. There's the ult coming out from Mitch. Mitch taken down. The ult's going to get destroyed. There's still Shinobi to deal with, and the fight ends up going the direction of Cloud9 at first, but then it spirals back to Envy's favor. The nade comes out, but it's a little too late to stop the plant. Relix is swapped over to the up, and we'll see if that's going to be enough, as he's not prepared for the peek coming out from Mummy. So, tactics be damned. Just run into the B site. It seems like just a full-bore B push. You know, when all else fails, rush B. I do want to point at the fact that it feels like when we watch teams who are good on bind, one of the things you'll see them do is use the Rays to clear out Hookah every round on attack. That's the default. You see teams do it time and time again. Immortals was really good on it with their old roster, and they still do it with the current one as well. We're not seeing that from Envy. In fact, we're seeing a general disregard for Hookah as they put most of their focus more towards long and maybe send one player Hookah.
That's
kind of wonder.
Style.
Yeah, like I kind of wonder if they would have a little bit more success if they used Food's Boombot to clear it out the way we've seen so many other teams do that in the past.
Well, right now, it's how Envy does it to try to clear out towards that long is usually to play off literally that Silva drone that's going out there towards long B. Then you have the Rays that's close by that he could actually run with something done, as well as the curveballs right after. But nonetheless, though, the Lurk is coming in towards his B side. The entrants are right. It's a 4 versus 4 situation where Envy, they sort of have control of this fight. But the spike has now been dropped and traded off. You still have one lurking across. It's that Silva that actually droned it out at the beginning of the round, where now Crashes has to fall back and wait for his teammates. FNS has pushed all the way up towards spawn, gets the first kill onto Mitch, but doesn't know the last players were but he plays a smart move to fall back and play the numbers advantage on this full command situation.
It's a 2-on-3. Envy in a great position to put another round on the scoreboard, and another round they desperately need. Dark cover comes out from Shinobi. There's 1 in Showers and 2 in U-Haul. A deep recon dart. And some spam coming out from Vice. Almost connects. Now that paranoia is right on the money. That blinds Vice for days. Trying to look for him. Tapping. You can see that the points coming out, the pings on the spike. They're looking for him. He's not on it, though. Not even able to survive as Mummy comes through with a flying, jumping classic. The spike will detonate and, whoops. Well, I'm sure he's giggling in the voice chat right now, but that's an expensive death as he now loses the op and has to rebuy. And the rest of the team's like, dude, you should have been running away. Like, the spike detonated. What are you doing?
Turn out.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely. At least he has that money to buy that op, and you also are able to drop a rifle for food if needed be. But like I said before, when Mummy had that opportunity to buy an operator, he actually still went for a rifle. So they might still just go for full AR into this round and try to figure out what they want to do with this. But just to get back to what you were mentioning before in terms of like teams taking control of Luka, at the same time, in terms of that B fight, I got to harp it up again on that ultimate for that Sova. Teams like
taken out.
T1 were dazed, or Gangsta with Immortals. They always just, even before, will just literally just Hunter's Fury from elbow into long B and vice versa to gain control of that B side. And I think they should utilize that to get into the sites. There. Case closed, page turned. Let's move into the action now as we have FNS. The one that's trying to get the information first, force that short A, gets picked off, so the rest of them have to work back without their leader to figure out how to move into the site.
It looks like they're going to be working back to A, where you've got the softer defense currently. Shinobi and Relics.
Joke's over. You're
3
dead.
players over on B, and uh-oh. This is a little bit scary. Caboose is going to go in first. Paranoia is right where it needs to be, but Shinobi has to back off after that initial kill, and he does. Now, I love what we're seeing as well on the other side. You've got Mitch now pushed up in mid, ready to get the flank, but you've got Caboose going in first. Curveballing through the nade, and the curveball
30
not really going
seconds
to
left.
produce much success. The Relics picks off one, trying to find a follow-up by way of Shinobi. Shinobi's found 2, and that's the spike planter going down. 10s in the end to close things out. CLOUD9, 8 rounds.
Last round before
after
the
giving
half.
Envy a little bit of action here in the first half. CLOUD9 are trying to put the cap on the end of it and close things out 9-3.
This goes here.
Turn out.
But as the fans hear you say they're trying to put the cap on it for Cloud9, the rest of the Envy fans are saying no cap, no cap. We actually do want to see a closer matchup. I know the context is different, but it's a dad joke. Guys, play with me. That being said, though, it was looking at Envy, the way that they try to run that towards that lamps control. A lot of the teams like to do that with the Blaze Wall and just run through. I like how Cloud9 readapted to that one. Like you said, Shinobi, when he fell back after killing the run it back from Foon, they actually played towards the front of the site instead, pushing Relics, pushing Shinobi towards that front of the game. On them all the way back when they're trying to get the spike plant for the kill. Next round, though, was just going to be them trying to push Shinobi inside the A site without trying to go for any Blaze Roll, any type of flat control. It's just going to be another all-out brawl like they did towards this B side, and it pays off in their favor. So in this last round, they still have that Hunter's Fury that they're hopefully going to use it for once in this half, and also a showstopper for Envy to try to secure this round.
I mean, their most successful rounds were explode strats. And you look back at the rounds they were able to win, and you kind of look back and go, man, what if they figured this out sooner? That these rounds were like their bread and butter. Now the tripwire gives away Mitch's position. That pulse is right on the money. Yeah, nice way to end that first half. It's an exclamation point, sure, at the end of the first half, but the scoreline in the end is not healthy for Envy whatsoever. They switch over to the defensive side now, and we'll take a look at the replay from that first half so we can see just how things went down, how Envy found themselves in this position. They kicked things off with the pistol round win, but it was that play there, Mummy on the back end of the bin on B.
Yeah.
Only getting 2 and then falling. And, you know, that round was problematic, and then it was almost all Cloud9 for a long while.
Yeah, I think even before that, just a little bit, you're looking at that the round that came in for Cloud9 with the pistols. On that second round that they turned it around on a retake, and they still were able to win that. Until then, the economy was so difficult for Envy to get it right. to actually bring and pull in a couple of rounds that they needed. But 8-4, in the end, still pretty decent, actually. I'm not going to discount Envy now that they take the side of the defender spawn, or the defender side, rather. They could still have that situation where they could amount to an easy comeback because, again, this is a map that Envy is comfortable on, and they are also 5-0. When you're looking back at this pregame, I was looking on Twitter before, and Shinobi was tweeting out like, oh, we threw a Ascent for fun so that we could practice Bind for seeding. So, of course, it's a troll tweet, but at the same time, it shows how CLOUD9 knows how strong Envy could be on this map. So them taking that defender side, making it 8-4, they have that moment of salvation with that.
If you look back at the matches they played on this map as well, they were able to beat T1 and a team earlier in the bracket called Destined. They lost the first half from the attacking side of the map, 4-8. They ended up winning against T1, and then against Destined, they lost it 3-9, and they still brought it back. So Envy certainly has opportunity here, but no!
30 seconds left.
He waits almost a little too long, and it doesn't work out so well. Mummy's trying to get past that turret. The shock dart out in front of him won't make too much of a difference. Nice leer, but it is taken care of pretty quickly. Envy now down to just 2. Crashies with a nice pickup as they try to make their way out. Crashies gets 1 as he falls into the site, but an immediate kill following from Vice. Finds success for CLOUD9 in the pistol. 9-4. You wanted to see them win that pistol round and return fire, but they're going to have to wait a bit, or they're going to have to do what CLOUD9 did to them in that first half. They're going to have to win it here and try and turn things around.
Yeah, I kind of also wish instead of returning fire was also to open fire. You're trying to be very patient and try to backstab a couple of guys on CLOUD9 once you got into the site. I think that was Mummy, right? That was holding that tight angle by the double boxes inside that site. A split second longer or a split second earlier, he would at least caught one off guard after getting the first kill, and at least if he died, he took one with him. But of course, you are trying to be a little bit more trigger disciplined. They didn't check the corner. You think the luck is on your side, but unfortunately, Lady Luck wasn't, and CLOUD9 takes the upper hand for the entries inside that site. But I think, again, you should have just shot like you kind of saw the brawl on that pistol round on that first half, just to give a better chance for your teammates who are rotating, get a better chance.
Relics times that first burst shot, and somehow Mummy gets caught looking the wrong way. As Relics is cleaning up currently in Hookah. Goes for that final kill, but not going to get it. Again, we talked about it in the first half. Wanted to see Envy use their raise to get control of Hookah. Well, that's exactly what CLOUD9 does there. And sure, to be fair, Envy's working with just pistols and some light utility. But still, Relics makes it look easy as he scoops up control and finds multiple kills on the round, now commanding that first position, the pole position on the scoreboard. 16-9-5, 15-8-5 is Tens just behind him.
The first burst shot with that Bulldog
was timed so well. So well.
Exactly. It was beautiful to watch, but not in the receiving end for sure. Now Crashy's looking for some information, going for that jiggle jump, and he's going to hear a lot of Bulldogs shooting at him. He manages to come out of it pretty healthy. Only some armor being damaged at that point. But you do have the recall now that's coming out too, so they are looking for another explosive entry into the B site. Right towards that back of the site, a partial flash here coming through. But it's Relics and Tens that opens up this B side. It's open for business, easy for a plan. Envy is forced to come back on a rotate with a 5-on-3. But now that they still have so much utility from CLOUD9 to cover up the spawn side, we have to come up with an early right now.
The rocket doesn't really do any damage. They do pick up the first on their attempted retake as Tens peeks out a little too wide from Cubby. Flash does at least blind them momentarily as they try to make their way out onto the site. But somehow they've gotten it down to a 2-on-1. It's all up to Food, and Relics says, no way, you didn't use the magic word. Relics will close out the round 11 on the board for CLOUD9. Relics was the one that got things started by blast packing his way through Hookah, an area that just didn't see much contention from Envy. And what do you do at this point if you're Envy? You just do whatever you can. You can see the buy reflects the situation that they're in. You've got a Guardian in play, a Vandal, 2 SMGs, and a Sheriff. And we'll see. Actually, it looks like Crashies is having a second guess. Yeah, there you go. It's going to be an SMG. Feeling that a little bit over the Guardian. Understandably so. CLOUD9 just needs 2 more rounds, and they'll be moving into next week's closed qualifier as the #1 seed. surprising many, myself included. I don't mean any disrespect to Cloud9, but with what we've seen from other teams throughout the last several months, I wouldn't have pegged Cloud9 to stomp and storm through the bracket the way that they have. Kudos to them, hats off for their performance, and the same goes for Envy.
Speaking of Envy, at the beginning of this round, you saw that Recon Owl come out through the teleporter just so that we could try to get the orb over towards that shower side control for Envy, so that if it happens that they don't win this round here, they have as many chances on their end following this round to try to catch up and bring this into overtime. So far, it's looking to be in favor on paper of Cloud9 because of the weaponry that they have, and also from that entry kill as Caboose falls. And now they continue to wallbang, and FNS never saw that coming. Tens gets the wallbang, takes him down into another 5-on-3 with an open sight into B.
You should run.
That's a great move from Food to get into Hookah.
One player remaining.
And they're gonna keep making their way out, but my God, Cloud9 just looks so good right now. The retake falls apart as quickly as it starts.
Match point.
12-4. Cloud9, 8 rounds up over Envy. And this is likely the end here as Cloud9 is scraping together loose change, reaching into the couches, looking for extra credits to try and field out a buy. And what they've found will not suffice. They've got pistols in play. Mummy doesn't have much. What's he gonna do? He goes down to the SMG. Should see a similar buy come in from Food, and we do. They've got 2 rifles, one of which is the Bulldog, and 3 SMGs. To say this is suboptimal would be kind of hitting it right on the head. As I say that, though, they've actually managed to kick things off quite nicely. They brought it to a 4-on-3, but it's quickly turned back around. FNS has upgraded to a rifle, and there is one right around the corner. The Boombot's going to lead them in first, but FNS continues to punish from the back end of the play. This is really well played, but in the end, they're still making it onto the site. So you've still got Shinobi in position with the spike, and they might actually run through. If they run through to B, this would be a brilliant play, but Crashies is watching for it.
They are going to clear that 50, though, so Crashies has to win that fight. If not, it's an open side. And the thing is, look at Food. He didn't fully rotate yet from that flank. So he's staying towards that teleporter. They know they're going to escape through. Now he has the upper ground, though, towards that window. So the alarm bot's going to get triggered from FNS pushing forward. They know a rotation's coming, but at least Caboose still has the angle from that window, but it's planted towards that back. The turret is up as well.
Spike
and Caboose
planted.
is just going to try to catch him off guard as soon as the spike gets planted. So he's looking towards this left side. Shinobi is playing inside that tin, and Mitch is playing towards the elbow. You cannot be any unluckier from the positioning you're at with the advantage. And even FNS falls down towards the garden, and also the turret spotted the other one. Thankfully, though, we do have a running back, but an Omen teleporter as well. Caboose gets the kill onto Mitch. He's looking to stay alive now, and Shinobi goes for the full from the shadows outside Hookah. Where is that? That's a 1 versus 1 now. Hunter's Fury still available. We have to go for that defuse, and it's going to be nearly impossible for them to get it for Cloud9, and Crashies gets the defuse. Much needed. But he dies with it too, so Shinobi does his job at least in the end. That it's going to still be a very broken low buy for Envy into this round.
A weird decision made by Shinobi to pop into the shadows and go for the kill on the player coming back into Hookah. Sure, it works. You know, they drop the Phoenix, but then the spike is not planted for you. If the spike was planted on the front side of that site, I think Shinobi wins that round and the game ends right there. But because it's planted on the other side, it just makes it unwinnable. I mean, you saw it. The Sova just sat there and stuck it the whole time. Now, Food has gotten aggressive and going to send a deep rocket down. It forces Relics right into FNS. It's face the rocket behind me or the unknown in front of me. And he goes for the unknown, and regardless of what happens, his demise is inevitable. So it's a 5-on-4 advantage for Envy. Again, that aggression towards short seems to be working out for them. They're playing defense the way they played offense to find success, just hold W. And it seems to be working out, at least to a certain amount. Now, you do have the jump peek coming through, Paranoia to back up Food, but Food is actually taken down as the spam allows them to trace that target back to its destination. And they make it a little bit easier for themselves. Now they pop one through the portal, and Shinobi's going to back off as the rest of the team is starting to work up mid now, where you've got Phoenix positioned outside of Longport, and you've got Sova likely jump peeking on the B site, spotting towards Hookah. And that's
30
exactly
seconds
what's
left.
happened. Crashies is looking for that intel, and he's going to get it. So there's the recon dart coming out from Crashies. He's going to go high to try and give away position. And that's in case they decide to jump out, but that makes it a little bit too easy there for Vice to take down Crashies. There's still positions being given away. The Empress ult has been popped. And it's now a 3-on-2 with numbers advantage for Cloud9.
10
The
seconds
spike
left.
going down. Mummy has made
Spike
it into
planted.
Hookah with 10 seconds left. The spike touches pay dirt. Shots coming out through the dark cover puts Mummy down onto 5 HP, and that puts a lot of pressure on FNS to save the day. The Nano Swarm making it that much harder for FNS to move into position, and now the Hunter's Fury as well. Nothing can be done.
Attackers
Cloud9
win.
close things out 13-5 over Envy, and they will be our #1 seed moving into the closed qualifiers next week.
Wow, man oh man, Cloud9 looks so strong and good on this map. They totally shunned me. I said it was going to be pretty much Envy's map. They look so comfortable in previous rounds, undefeated going into the bracket 2, into this grand finals, and it's still going to be Cloud9 sealing the deal and most convincingly on that defender side to start things off. But even on the attack, they look so strong as well. They look complete, sort of complete. They took advantage of Envy's mistakes too onto that map for being a team less practiced on Bind to still be able to get that result in the end for Cloud9. Hats off to them, man. They did amazing.
I mean, here's the thing. You look at Cloud9 and you look at their trajectory. Early on, it was slow and steady on the increase, and then it was a big jump. And everyone was like, oh, that was just a fluke. Like, that didn't happen. And then the next event, that was also a fluke. And then the next event, it was also a fluke. But we'll take a look at the replays here presented by GoPuff. GoPuff is the official delivery partner of Nerd Street Gamers. Use the promo code NerdStreet when you sign up on GoPuff, and you'll get $4 off your first 4 orders. GoPuff ordered in seconds, delivered in minutes. Now, this first match was probably one of the best of the series. It was so incredibly close, going down to that final moment, and we thought potentially it would go into overtime. That did not end up happening. And this one was all Cloud9, and you can tell just by the scoreboard as you see these replays, Cloud9 decimated Envy on the defense.
Overall, for these two teams, they definitely shut up a lot of the doubters too. Envy to be able to beat Cloud9 into that first map, 13-11, where Cloud9 looked good on Ascent. Then you're looking at Split. Oh, okay, this is Envy's map. They have this in the bag. They get decimated onto this map too. They look into the third map. Okay, this is Envy's map on the third map. They also get a one-sided affair in favor of Cloud9. So Cloud9, despite being less practiced, as I mentioned before, when you have players that pop off, just like Relics and like Tens did, you don't really need that much strategy on your end to try to win these rounds, especially when you're able to get so many rounds on the defender side first for Cloud9. But overall, for Envy to make it all the way towards the end here, to be that #2 seed going into the close qualifier, you definitely have to give props, and it's not an easy route for either of these teams. You might say, hey, there's been some easy brackets here and there depending on who they played, but they still made it in the top 2 out of 128 teams that played through this qualifier.
Yeah, and they did it by beating several strong teams, too. Envy beats T1. They beat Gen G. They go the distance with Cloud9. Cloud9, they defeated TSM. And you know what? A surprise team in the Slimy Boogermen, as much as their name might be a meme, and I giggle like a child every time I read it. That team really ended up stepping up big, being one of the few unsigned teams that actually made it into the closed qualifier. And we'll take a look at the list of those teams in just a second so you can get an appreciation for who's going to be competing next weekend. We've got Cloud9, TSM, Envy, Gen G, Sentinels, T1, 100 Thieves, the Boogermen. Built by gamers, Equinox, Dignitas, Renegades, Luminosity, Complexity, XSET, and SpotUp. I mean, when you look at this list, the only two who aren't signed roster salaried players are Boogermen and SpotUp. The rest of these teams are organized teams. And you actually look, there's a lot of teams who didn't make it that are. So this was not an easy bracket to fight your way through, but it's also not the end for any of these teams. So these teams will be moving on to next week for the closed qualifier, but there's still another qualifier after that run by UMG as well. So there's ample opportunity for teams in the North American region to try to make it into that First Strike event. We'll see who's going to be competing at that event when it comes time. But I'm thoroughly impressed with the teams we saw compete in this event as a whole. I think we got a couple of surprises. I think we have a couple of takeaways. One, Gen G is legit. Sean is fantastic, and he's really helped them turn things around very quickly and make them a powerhouse team. TSM continues to be strong, but maybe not as one-sided as it once was for them. They're having to fight a little bit harder for some of those wins. Sentinels ducked out a little bit earlier than we expected, but still managed to make it through. And Cloud9, Cloud9 and Envy, too. I think we got to give credit to Envy as well. They looked fantastic, and everything that everyone was saying about them coming into this bracket, this 120-18 bracket, was correct.
No, definitely, and I think some of the teams that we didn't mention as well, like TSM too, right? So they get that third seed moving into next week's qualifier. But overall, when you look at it, in the top 16 that qualified, they're happy. They made it to that point. They're one step closer to making it to the First Strike Finals too. So just to summarize how that works is that we've made it from 128 to the top 16. Top 16 moves into the closed qualifier, where the top 4 of that qualifier moves into the First Strike Grand Finals, and then whoever seeded 4th to 8th goes into the next closed qualifier automatically for the UMG qualifier, which means that for the UMG Open qualifier, it's going to be another 128 teams, but only the top 12 are going to move in to with the other 4th to 8th to try to battle it out to see who's going to be the top 4 to summarize the 8 teams in that finals of First Strike. So it's not over yet, as Buck mentioned before here, for any of these teams, but for those that made it to the top 16, they could definitely take a small breather until we get into that finals or into the closed qualifiers for Nerd Street Gamers. And I think it's going to be a tough one, no matter what. All of these teams are going to be hungry. It doesn't matter if you're seated first or you're seated 16th moving into the next qualifier. These guys are going to come out to play. But the thing is, I'm going to have to try to figure out what's going to happen next week, though, because technically next week we might see the new patch come out. Next week or two, we might see Sky being able to put into action as well. Technically, she was supposed to come out here on November 9th, but who knows what's going to happen now when the new patches come out. So there's a lot of uncertainties there, but that's going to change the whole gameplay and aspect for those that don't qualify into the top 4 next week.
Well, there's a lot of unknowns as we continue to traverse this new territory, which is competitive Valorant. But that's going to wrap things up for us. But before we throw things to a break, a final close on the day, and wait until we come back for the closed qualifiers next week, I have one more task for you. You need to crash our stream by spamming 4 in the chat. If you haven't spammed 4 in the chat, we aren't friends. Okay, so spam 4 in the chat. Try and take us down. I dare you. We are going to throw things to a close, guys. Join us next week, Wednesday, November 11th, as we kick off the closed qualifiers. We hope to see you then.